So technology is continually advancing in our everyday society. In different disciplines, we see people using technology in different ways and trying to enhance it to help them in whatever they're doing, whatever their career has them doing. So I was thinking about different disciplines and how they use technology and what intrigues them to learn more. So when I thought about mechanics, I thought, okay, when they see a new car, they're intrigued, they stare, they want to know more about how the new car was made. When architects see new buildings, they want to learn more about the structure and how it was made. When a software creator sees a new coding, they want to know how it makes a difference in the process of their coding or whatever it is created. When a doctor sees a new disease that's cured, they want to know more about how it was cured and how they can implement it in their own practice. So personally, as an athletic training major, when I see an athlete with prosthetics, I want to know more about how it affects their activities of daily life and how it affects their performance in athletics, and if they were injured or need my help in any way, how I could help them. So prosthetics are being implemented mostly in track and field, in the lower limb area. So they've created a blade, which is the newest prosthetic that allows them to run and have a more mechanical advantage when performing. Although we only see these in track and field, I wanted to look at other sports where we could possibly see prosthetics more often. So I was able to find them being implemented in baseball and softball. So they have a little cup hand that they can put the baseball in, and then they're able to throw it like a slingshot almost. So since the 1800s, prosthetics have really developed. In the 1800s, it was sort of just a peg leg to start out with, and people were stared at, and it wasn't very human-like. So since the 1800s, in the last 200-300 years, we've really developed in prosthetics to make it look more human and have a more mechanical advantage to be more similar to our biological bodies. So how does this really affect the athletes? Athletes are very in tune with how they're using their energy systems. So for a lot of athletes, and especially endurance athletes, they're thinking about their oxygen and how they're using their oxygen. So Clark in 1996 did a study with normal able-bodied people and people using intelligent prosthesis. So the people that used intelligent prosthesis had about 10% less oxygen uptake. So this graph kind of explains it a little bit. When your exercise intensity increases, your oxygen consumption or oxygen uptake increases. You get to a certain point where you can no longer intake any more oxygen, and so your intensity as well as your oxygen uptake kind of levels off and you can't increase. So if we have 10% less oxygen uptake with the intelligent prosthesis, we're able to perform at the same level as an able-bodied person, but with less energy use. So this is good for people in athletics because we can perform at a higher intensity for a longer duration, and then even less fatigue. So Beckman in 2016 goes a little bit farther and says if we have less muscle mass to send oxygen to send energy to, then we're going to be using less energy overall, and we're going to have less muscle fatigue. So I talked about track and field earlier. They have where it's implemented a lot. The prosthetics are implemented a lot, and if they don't have a lower limb, they don't have lower body muscles, they're going to be less likely to fatigue in the lower body. So another thing that affects athletes a lot is their gait. And I think it's not something we as able-bodied people think about a lot, but people who are overcoming injury and people that even come into athletic training room, patients that we deal with, we are always watching their gait, always watching if they have muscle imbalances or things that it could affect if they become injured. So a person that is using a prosthetic will definitely have problems with their gait because the prosthetics now don't have the ability to lift your foot or plant it down. So if we're not able to heel strike, which is one of the phases of the gait, and then go ahead and toe off, we're going to change our whole kinetic movement, and therefore we're going to be using different muscles and aggravating different muscles that are not used to being used in that way. Another thing that would affect the amputees is the muscle memory of the gait processes. So, like I said earlier, we all don't think about our gait very often because we've done it forever. It's just second nature to us. But with a new person who's using the prosthetics, as an athletic trainer, it will be one of our jobs to help them relearn their gait, relearn their muscle memory to be able to use the prosthetic in the best way possible to kind of mimic a normal gait cycle. So I wanted to know how much this would affect athletic training and how much it will actually be implemented in the future, how much prosthetics will be implemented in the future. Because right now, we don't really see much of this on a daily basis. So Garrow in 2014 did a study and they sent out about 35,000 surveys. And they got 3,500 back, and of the 3,500, there's about 750 participants that said they had foot pain. So that's what you can see in the first graph. And then they went a little farther, and of those 750 people, 11% of women and 8% of men had disabling foot pain. So if these 19% of people that had disabling pain were given the option to get a prosthetic, that's 18% of people that would have the prosthetics that we'd be dealing with on a daily basis. And if you think about 18% of athletes or even patients overall, that's a great deal of people that we're dealing with that are needing to learn how to use their prosthetics and implement them in their daily activities. So where are these prosthetics going in the future? If 18% of people are getting prosthetics and we're constantly becoming better and technology is getting better and better, the scientists now are trying to create ways to connect their spinal cord and the neural pathways to their prosthetics. So the big thing is being able to move your prosthetics how you want, your brain is going to tell your hand to do like clutch a fist or something. So that's something that scientists are working on. We're also working on being able to have a sense of touch, being able to hold someone's hand and feel what you're doing, feel if something's hot. So that's where the future is going. And Wolbring in 2012 discusses that if we're able to control our prosthetics with our minds, where is that going to go? How far will it go that the person using the prosthetic can move it as fast as they want, or do different things with it, or attach new things to the prosthetic that could possibly be dangerous. So in athletic training, I don't see prosthetics taking away athletic training jobs. I think we can, if we stay up with our education, we can use prosthetics in a way that will make us more valuable to patients because they'll need to learn how to use them. And Fager in 2016 discusses how prosthetics are already being implemented in the Olympic Games, and there's athletic trainers in the Olympic Games working with these people with prosthetics, making sure they're healthy. Even someone who's using a prosthetic still has a lot of biological body left. So we're still going to have to treat their biological body as well as the prosthetic. to be not only implemented in the sports world, but all populations. So athletic trainers will be able to work with all populations and how it will affect their daily life, their career, and then continuing to possibly regulate in the future how the prosthetics are used in sports. So if we do get to the point where they can move their limb however fast they want or use it in different ways than a biological body could, the athletic trainer could possibly be the one to stand up and regulate how they're used in sport and how we kind of look at those things in competition. That's all. Thank you.